Welcome back on the Leaders Who Care. Today we had the privilege to welcome a very special guest here, a nerd at heart. Niklas Mortensen is a design executive with 25 years at the crossroads of design, technology, and business transformation. As Chief Design Officer at DesignIt, he leads 250 designers across Europe and Asia Pacific, turning complexity into actionable solutions for very well-known organizations amongst Cisco, Nokia, Los Angeles Airport. A champion of design as a business driver, he brings teams and delivers impactful innovation at scale. As you know, today I'm playing a role and I'll be stepping into a skeptical CFO to challenge our guest. So do bear with me if I come across tough and intimidating, but I know there are a lot of skeptical leaders that want to really check how valuable this is. So today I'll be challenging Nicholas in the hot seat as a skeptical CFO, as I mentioned, and who sees design as an expensive surface level intangible investment. So today we're going to put design on trial. Nicholas, welcome, and I hope you're ready.
Thank you, Marian. I'm ready. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Well, design with no doubt plays a key role. I personally am very passionately interested in a great design. We've seen many great products and companies have been successful, and design played a key role. However, um, yeah, it's a little bit difficult. So I'll be stepping into the CFO now, and who is quite skeptical. So, starting out, the first question is, how can we concretely measure the return on investment from design initiatives?
That is a super good question, and one I wish that all designers should be able to answer from the get-go. And it's also a question that more and more business leaders are asking themselves across the board. They've invested heavily in design, and they're not necessarily uh, uh, seeing the tangible outcomes. And I think somewhere along the line, we did not manage to position design as a business critical kind of discipline. So this change in conversation is quite interesting, and I find myself personally using less and less design language when I'm speaking to the likes of the CFOs and C-suites. I talk business, I talk technology. However, I use the design toolkit more than ever. So design ROI can be measured through both qualitative and quantitative metrics. So anything from increased customer retention, revenue growth, cost reduction, etc. So
Okay. So there are metrics that directly link design efforts to financial performance that you measure.
absolutely, absolutely. You can use frameworks like from both finance and consulting align, like value stream analysis and cost benefit analysis, etc., and kind of translate design metrics over to those kind of more known frameworks. Design ROI can be measured through both quantitative and qualitative metrics, like anything else. Metrics may not tell the full story. And this is where I have a bit of a pet peeve, because there might be external factors influencing the results that really cannot be taken into consideration with data alone. So I think it's balancing kind of judgment and scientific rigor that should always accompany interpretation of measurement, with some establishing some very clear and measurable objectives at the outset that enables you as an organization to track progress and quantify the impact of design investment effectively. That said, there is a bit of a kind of a measurement fatigue going on in business. We're at this point in time at kind of peak Friedman economics, where um, measurement seems to be kind of the core of all we do. Rory Sutherland refers to this as kind of Soviet style capitalism. where the CFO, procurement office, HR have put such kind of a centralized control over all company resources that innovation is stifled. And I think it really boils down to this misinterpretation of Peter Drucker. I think we all heard of Peter Drucker and this quote that's like says something like, "What gets measured gets managed." But we kind of don't see the full context of what he was actually saying, which warns that this can also be harmful if the measurements are pointless or detrimental. So I'm personally I'm a bigger fan of Goodhart's law that states when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. And that for me really kind of says that we need to be careful when we start measuring and make sure that we're measuring the right things, and also revisit that to make sure it's still the right thing, as starting to measuring stuff can really lead to kind of behaviors and outcomes that were not intended.
Let's be real. Can you name a company that's measurably more successful because of design, not just because they had a good product?
Yeah, and I mean the question is in many ways flawed, right? Because a good product is a well-designed product, regardless of who designed it, right? Be it
Okay.
an inventor, engineer, or a product developer, or a designer. Um, Design is not itself a copyrighted profession, like a doctor or a lawyer, for example. But strategic design requires an intentional approach. So I mean, the obvious kind of top of mind choice, obviously, kind of is Apple on their focus on intuitive interfaces. I mean, at the end of the day, an Apple computer and a Dell or Lenovo, they're computers, right? But Apple sells their products at a premium price based on the fact that they provide a really, really well designed ecosystem, but also beautifully designed hardware as well. Dyson is another kind of example. Who would have thought that someone could sell vacuum cleaners for 3 times the price of what you can get at your local kind of store, right? But you may love or hate Dyson's design, but it definitely kind of stands out as well.
That's very interesting. And design teams thrive on creativity, Niklas, but business runs on numbers. So I'm still interested in that as leaders. How do we, as leaders, strike the right balance of giving designers the freedom to innovate while ensuring their work aligns with the business metrics, goals, and KPIs?
Yeah. And it's not really an either or, right? Creative teams don't thrive in chaos, even though we that seems to to be what people think. But they don't thrive in spreadsheets either, right? There's a balance in choosing kind of freedom and focus. It's about creating conditions where designers are empowered and accountable. And I mean, the best creative talent I work with is driven by impact. They want to know that their ideas and their work matters, not just to users, but also to business. And business by business, I also mean like could be an NGO, it could be public sector, right? All of these clients are they need to know that the work there or the investment they're doing pays off in one way or another. So I try to make it a priority to connect our work to outcomes, co-creating KPIs and making sure that we bring designers into early stage strategy and not just delivery.
Oh, we've seen actually companies lose, well, let's say pour millions into rebranding efforts. One specific example is Tropicana spent 35 million on rebranding to lose 20 million in sales in just 1 month. Even the biggest names get it wrong. So doesn't that prove the design is just a costly gamble, or could we get away with much more cost-effective solution?
Yeah, Tropicana is an interesting case, right? And you had I very clearly also remember when Gap introduced a new logo. I think this is about 2010, without any kind of adequate customer engagement. It was a complete backlash, right? And that led to them reverting the logo within a week. Another recent example is the redesign of Jaguar. The
Well,
jury is still out on that one, right? No one is able to now determine if it's a success or a failure, but it's very, very clear that it's extremely divisive, right? So for me, design missteps often stem from a lack of alignment with customer expectation rather than the design process itself. And design executed purely as a marketing exercise done badly is just that. It's a badly done exercise. Effective design is rooted in understanding and involving the customer and employees throughout the process, and that heavily mitigates the risk of getting it wrong. So personally, I view design methodology as a risk mitigation tactic more than ever. Now, for Jaguar, one can safely say that they are no longer interested in capturing their middle-aged, older male demographic. But if they manage to capture the new audience they're going after, that remains to be seen. I'm really looking forward to following that as it proceeds.
okay, you've made a good point here that actually its design may be well executed, but it will not be a success unless it's connected to the customer expectations and really closely understands what might be. Even though Apple's kind of philosophies, we we know the people don't know what they want. We tell them we design things that they love or hate. So it's like it is a, and since I'm very keen on the right leaders in the right placements, the right hires. Here's a wrong design hire. Example, J.C. Penney, Ron Johnson, new CEO of ex-Apple guy actually, redesigned vision, revenue dropping by approximately 25% in the first year. That's over $1 billion of loss.
Yeah.
How to avoid this?
Yeah, and I think it's a misconception that Apple does not kind of ask its customers, right? They spend lots of money on investing in kind of doing insights work and research, and they're also famously known for not being a first mover, right? They have some failures in the past where they tried doing that. The Newton being one of them. So they're particularly good at observing the market, observing what the competition does, and just doing it better. So I
Okay.
think when it comes to hiring as well, there's a huge difference between companies that have design as part of their kind of organizational fabric and strategy, and companies that view design as we mentioned earlier as a marketing tactic, as something that kind of it's about beautification. You really need to kind of correlate and triangulate your quantitative and your qualitative insights and work closely with both business and technology and the rest of the organization to really kind of move the needle forward and de-risk, right? So we use kind of design methodology to de-risk large project investments upfront for our clients. So by working
Okay.
collaboratively and iteratively with a more kind of human-centric approach, we try to distill user needs and business goals into some actionable insights. So before you start on that huge digital transformation project or that rebranding, we do kind of the necessary work beforehand to really make sure that we hit as close to the kind of intended target as possible.
Just to understand for the audience, is there any major division in the design? How do you categorize design? Because there's so many, the word is used in products, is used in services strategy, is used in human design, even the methodologies. Can you just maybe share a little bit of your take of how do you group design and how do you approach design within your organization?
Yeah. A lot have changed with design, right? It's the design field has become quite mature, but also very broad. So
Yeah.
at DesignIt, we have everything from behavioral psychologists and anthropologists all the way through your typical kind of design skills like UX, service design, etc., and all the way to industrial design. So
Hmm.
we kind of cover all the bases, so to speak. And while a lot has changed over the past decade and a half, design is still largely viewed as this kind of soft asset, something you add on top of the hard business metrics to make your brand, product, or service appear more appealing. So for me, impactful design is the kind of strategic integration of human-centered insights, technological innovation, and business objectives to
Hmm.
create solutions that deliver measurable value. And with that,
Okay.
it goes beyond aesthetics to solve complex challenges. So driving customer engagement, fostering sustainable growth, ensuring organizations remain competitive and also purpose driven as well.
That's very well said. But talking about innovation and technology, you say technology is an asset rather than a threat, but AI is replacing designers faster than we admit. If technology can generate logos, interfaces, and entire brand strategies, why should companies invest in expensive design teams?
Yeah, that's a super good question, and something that a lot of organizations and design agencies are grappling with at the moment. It is quite interesting, right? We were promised this future where AI would do all the boring stuff, so we could kind of realize
Mhm.
ourselves as humans. But what we've seen with especially with Gen AI is that it's really good at doing a lot of the downstream work. The artist Joanna Maciejewska has this great quote that's been doing the rounds on the internet, where she said something like, "I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not AI to do my art and writing so I can do my laundry and dishes." Right? Uh, and I think this addresses this essential tension in the ongoing discourse surrounding artificial intelligence. And the truth is that AI is getting better at the downstream design work, and it's a real wake up call for us as an industry. And that is fine. I think we're uh, as a field, we are really kind of we've been adapting and changing for all the time. But what we also see is that the upstream work, the more kind of the advisory, the strategy, etc., is where AI kind of falls short in many ways. So while AI can assist in generating design elements, it lacks the human intuition and contextual understanding necessary for the more kind of empathic decision making, the ethical consideration, the empathy required for impactful design to remain kind of inherently human. I mean, we all seen we can all kind of start interpreting now if we get a text and see if it's AI written, because it's very verbose, right? So there's a lot of these like inherent human capabilities that we really I don't think we'll see until Skynet reaches full consciousness, and then I think we have other kinds of challenges. But looking at emerging technology within DesignIt, but also when we work with our customers, we always try to take a step back and look at AI through a few different lenses. So the kind of optimal augmentation. How do we optimize and augment kind of humans with new technology? There's a lot of kind of you can see the dollar signs in a lot of CFOs' eyes at the moment, where they're like, "Oh, we can use AI to replace all these people," and it's got this whiff of the kind of 90s optimization, digitization wave in manufacturing, where a lot of huge manufacturers fired a lot of people because they were going to replace them with technology, only to realize that technology could not replace human to the full extent. So they try to hire people back again, but then they have already lost a lot of kind of organizational knowledge and competence. So we have to be really, really careful that we don't kind of lose sense of what we're actually trying to achieve. Because
So what's your
sorry.
Sorry, what's your advice then? If we're a business, obviously, I'm putting myself into, obviously, as a CFO and running a products business, we're looking to grow, um, and we want to make sure we leverage those technologies, as you say. But what would be your advice to most impactfully, to most cost effectively approach design? How would you advise that they outsource it to companies like obviously DesignIt or the third party, or do they hire strategic multidisciplinary designers, one or two, or you mentioned earlier companies that by DNA they're design driven. What does it mean? So just trying to get your take on what would be your advice of how product companies should approach design with the innovation and AI? Because we want to avoid that slowdown of firing a lot of people and then rehiring. How would they
Yeah.
approach that?
I think you're touching upon two things. That's kind of how do you embed design in the organization, right? A lot of companies have invested a lot of money on building huge design teams, and they're now kind of scaling those back because then you end up with this huge department where you almost at some point have to kind of make up projects as well. So I
Mhm.
think there's the augmentation of having a good core of design competency within the organization, and being able to get in external expert, getting that outside in view of your organization, your products, your services, to really work alongside and augment your internal teams. And there is you see different maturity levels across organizations. The more mature organizations are now kind of shifting their design departments into more product-based teams. So you have design and business and technology, especially kind of working together to solve problems. Uh, Quite further down the maturity line, you see the companies that are now kind of shifting their design departments in under the CMO office. Nothing against marketing and communication, but again, then we're back in the territory of Tropicana again, where design is seen as a marketing exercise more than anything else, often. And then the least mature organizations, you see design is moved in under IT, where design really goes to die, to be honest. But I do think
Why?
the
Why they down under the IT? Since AI is IT.
I think then you're back to the design is a UI kind of argument, and
Okay.
I think it's not really about kind of design or IT being kind of one being more important than the other. I think it's the act of kind of making sure that they work in tandem, right? And for technology to really deliver the utmost of its value, you need to understand the business. You need to understand the users. You need to understand how the technology is being adopted, either by customers, but we see more and more these large kind of digital transformation projects go wrong. And you can pick up
Mm.
any report from Deloitte or Bain or whatever, and they will tell you that 75 to 90% of digital transformation projects that go wrong. And a lot of the reasons for why they go wrong is that they're not anchored in the organization. So you shift and
Okay.
lift and get in new systems, and your employees are sitting there and going like, okay, this new system that you implemented does not fit my way of working, or I don't understand how to use it. The workflow is alien to me, and it doesn't fit the rest of the organization. So there's a lot of kind of there's still a lot of human components to implementing new technology that we need to be aware of, and often technology, whether it's a new CRM system or AI, it does not live in isolation. there's
Mhm.
an ecosystem within the organization where it belongs, and you have to make sure that it's put in and doesn't disrupt the rest of the ecosystem as well.
So, just to summarize the three level of maturity, once again, you said the least mature is design is under IT. The next one was design was under marketing, like and communication. And what is the mature, the most advanced? Where does it sit in?
No, it's the where we see the product organizations, where the teams, designers, business developers, technologists, IT for that matter, they are kind of centered around a product or a service and the
Okay.
users that are going to use those products and services. That's where because I mean, design is not a solo exercise, right? This is
Yes.
also one of those kind of hard to kill notions that designers are kind of sitting in mood rooms and waiting for inspiration, like some divine kind of thing. But it's really a team exercise, and this is what design methodology is really good at: is working kind of seeing challenges holistically. So considering the context of the surrounding systems and structures that are getting impacted by this, but also running highly collaborative processes to ensure that everyone is aligned. And this is where this is where the post-its and the visualization come in. It's not because we're so damn creative so we can't use a computer. It is the fact that we as people are extremely visual. So being able to work in that way really unleashes another kind of level of creativity, not just for the designers, but for everyone involved in the projects.
You mentioned about the mature organizations of being is a team exercise, so that requires a lot of multidisciplinary knowledge and teams coming together. But then the question is, every department fights for bigger budget. Why should we prioritize design over operations, sales, or especially or product development, which you mentioned, when revenue doesn't come from the beautiful UI, but actually from a business deal?
Yeah, I have quite a bit of issues with that statement because there's quite a lot of research that shows the opposite, right?
Okay,
And it's
like
not.
what?
I know Stanford Persuasive Technology Lab has done some research around this. It's probably a couple of years old now, but it was something
Hmm.
around. It found that something around 75% of consumers judge a company's credibility based on their website design. So this is
Okay,
before they even touched your product
well, that's
or
interesting.
experienced your service, right? So a beautiful quote unquote functional and user friendly UI does not more than please the eye. It creates trust, right? So
Mhm.
it's really hard for the sales department to sell anything if people don't immediately trust your company. Secondly, I don't think it's about prioritizing design over everything else, as I said previously, but it's seeing it as part of your business critical operations. So again, design is about solving business problems and creating value. So, for example, a well-designed customer journey directly impacts conversion rates and customer satisfaction. um, Ensuring that your products and services are user friendly and meet the criteria and expectations of your customers and employee support operational efficiency and drive sales growth. So I've seen this time and time again that strategic design can really reduce operational costs by making systems more intuitive and user friendly, reduce training, support expenses considerably. Working a lot with, for many reasons, working a lot with the customer and employee support these days, and it really interesting to see how big an impact a well-designed process has on reducing the amount of support needed within an organization.
You said something really nice here, strategic design. Okay, so that's the strategic design. Does it refer to really how can we increase revenue, touch our customers better? How can we really make? Is that a separate category in your firm, or how do you approach the different types of design, and how often the strategic design is really the main, like the forefront?
I mean, for us, strategic design is everything we do.
Okay.
The core of our our belief system. Because design for design's sake is as useful as growth for growth's sake. It gives you short term kind of satisfaction, but in the long term, it falls apart. So I think for us to be able to deliver measurable impact, we have to approach every project with a strategic mindset and looking at the long-term kind of impact we want to create, the customer wants to create, and the potential kind of ripple effects of that.
Okay. Design lovers talking about human-centric design experiences, but do people actually care?
Yeah, that's yes, people care. This is. I mean, we're humans, right? We care about experiences. I had this conversation the other day, and Craigslist was brought up. It's not a product that I use every day, so I had to go
Yeah,
online
because
and have a look at.
customers want fast, cheap, convenience. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
ugly, functional like Craigslist, like or Amazon, all UI do
Yeah,
kind of do well. Do aesthetics really matter here?
yeah, and sometimes you want McDonald's, and other times you want a five-course meal and white napkins, right? And I think for me, Craigslist is it's perfectly utilitarian and straightforward. Like I completely appreciate that. And for those of us who got our first mobile phones pre-iPhone, we all remember the truly utilitarian nature of a good old-fashioned kind of Nokia phone, the T9 keyboard and the small monochrome screens. Where the focus was on durability and battery life, right? I could go for a week without charging my 3210.
Mhm.
But let's admit it, right? It's and I know it's a bit of a fad now with people kind of wanting the non-feature phones, but for those of us who rely on our phone to check our emails and do like nearly every task today, it would be quite difficult to do that on a 2 by 3 centimeter monochrome screen. Um, but I do I think we need both, right? Craigslist does exactly what Craigslist does, but then you have brands like the aforementioned Apple or Harley Davidson, for that matter, or Nike that have an exquisite kind of brand legacy and storytelling that kind of pairs with intentional and functional design that create like this fan-like loyalty, but that also enables them to take premium kind of pricing for their products as well. So companies that invest in understanding user behaviors and preferences are much more able to not only meet kind of functional needs, but build emotional connection so you can really foster long-term engagement. And I'm sure the people at Craigslist also kind of meticulously follow their metrics as well. And we have sort of a similar service here in Norway as well. And every time they do the minute tweak, there's an uproar. I know Facebook also spent something like 300 hours redesigning their like button, and I don't think any of us really noticed, but it's such like a cultural. It's this icon that goes across all different cultures. So every tiny little tweak
So,
is important.
so what you're saying is ugly functional tech cells like the Craigslist actually may not, they may be purposefully designed that way to be
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to simplify. So that's basically a lot of time has gone into that
You would,
design, even though
you
it may not look as appealing to everyone, but it's actually very functional, very robust. So actually, that's the whole purpose of the design.
Yeah, and I mean, it symbolizes something, right? It gives a message of what you find here is kind of quick and dirty and easy, and it's not intricate. And I think there's a beauty to that as well. So
Mm.
I absolutely think it's functional in its own right. Absolutely.
Nicholas, thank you. You've been very helpful. But I'm now putting myself into the shoes of a CEO, and then really, if a CEO right now is listening to this episode and had to decide today whether to double their design budget or cut it in half, what would you tell them, and why they should believe you?
Well, if I were to be a bit confrontational, I would say that if you're only looking for at design as a cost center, I would cut it. But if you see design as a multiplier of value, then double it. Again, there's lots of research here from IBM, Forrester, Design Council, etc., where it's like for every £100 a design-aware business spends on design, turnover increases by over double, right? So here's the thing: when done right, design reduces waste, accelerates time to market, and improves customer retention. So, as I hope I've been able to kind of drive home during our conversation, great design shouldn't be considered an expense. It's an operational leverage.
Yeah.
It's the difference between solving the right problem the first time or burning cycles fixing what should have been caught upstream. Um, I mean, I've led design teams that drove measurable gains like lower churn, faster adoption, fewer support tickets, etc. That's not creative fluff. That is hard business value. So, um, yes, if you believe that, double the budget, but make sure that you measure what matters. And if your
Okay.
brand also looks amazing while you leave your competition in the dust, that is an absolutely beautiful added bonus, right?
When you say double, but measure what matters, so because you can double and still waste a lot of money, how any increase of budget or let's say investment, I would say, not even budget into design, should look like. So let's say you're the CEO, what would you do for a business that is looking to grow, or maybe is having a stagnation, or that something is not working in their uh, products or solutions? How would you um, use the designer's leverage to turn this around?
Yeah, I think that's a super good question. And when we first meet with our customers, we always try to boil it down to some metrics, right? One is the kind of business goals, etc., and looking at the challenge in and of itself. But that challenge can very often be quantified. So I mentioned earlier, at the moment we're doing quite a lot of work within kind of customer support and employee kind of internal support as well. So if you look at a large multinational company, an international company with tens of thousands of support tickets a month, and every support ticket is divided between its email, its telephone, and its self-serving channels. So that could be a wiki, it could be an AI chatbot, etc. It's obvious that the email and telephone support is obviously the ones that cost money, right? So if we say that 40%, 50% of the customer support are through kind of manual channels, you can put a price on that. And you can look at, okay, but if we reduce the amount of telephone and email support and move that over to the self-serving channels, so let's say we have 20,000 tickets a month. We reduce that to 10,000. You can put a price tag on that, and that will tell
Yeah.
you kind of what's it worth investing in this, and how much, what would my return on investment be, and how much should I invest in it, right?
That's great. And what about if you use design as a lead generator, for example, especially with UI you mentioned earlier, that really matters. And that, let's say this is for a service organization that doesn't have any products, they just provide services, whether this is consultancy, whether it be a design, business, talent, whatever, consultancy they provide. What would be your advice to them, to how do they approach or should approach design as a pillar for lead generation?
Yeah. And again, we're back to the example about building trust from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
You want to create that kind of conversion funnel where you actually get inbound leads. So the outbound work is the work of the marketing department, but I think one of the main tasks for investing in design then is kind of, okay, how do we capture those leads, and how do we turn those leads or convert those leads into actual business? I'm currently, which is, yes, that's part obviously how you are perceived the second you get kind of people landing on your website, but it's also what comes after that. How do you actually make people feel? That also needs to be intentionally designed. I'm currently reading Will Guidera's Unreasonable Hospitality. Will was leading the 11 Madison Park, the world's best restaurant, for many years, and their whole thing was providing unreasonable hospitality, so going above and beyond. So if you're in the services industry, if you're in the consultancy industry, I mean, that's a Red Sea. So how do you actually stand out? That's more than a website. That's more than providing a good sign-up feature. That is also kind of the designing the experience from end to end. So you create returning customers that are also ambassadors for you, right?
Wonderful. Nicholas, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you today and really go in details and trash out this topic. Thank you for sharing those insights and really putting design on trial. And for those of us who are listening, there were quite a few interesting insights of where do you position design, level of maturity, to what you should do, and approach with technology, AI. I certainly love number of the suggestions you mentioned. So if anybody is interested, especially I love the strategic design, and this is what your business does. How should they approach this? Let's say they maybe not have a big budget or not sure if they want to get in touch. What would be your advice to them if any one of them needs some advice or initially wants to decide what is worth investing in that?
Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, I'm always available via LinkedIn. There should be a meeting kind of booking link there as well, so we can have a chat and kind of let me kind of help you untangle some of the issues. I would also recommend for anyone kind of wanting to put their toe in the water, reach out to your local national design council. Most countries have that in one way or another. Those are excellent organizations to kind of help you guide you into taking the kind of first steps into the design world.
So what do you mean the National Design Council? Is every country has this in Europe?
Most countries have you have in the UK you have the Design Council. In Denmark you have the Danish Design Council. There's also an EU body as well, which is probably a tier up. But do a quick search. A lot of these entities have lots of resources as well that you can download and get acquainted with how to start kind of working with design.
Excellent. And finally, one personal question for you. If you had unlimited resources, what would be your hope for the future of the world, for a better world? Unlimited resources and power. What would you like to see change?
Wow, that's a profound question. I
Probably design. Yeah.
no, but and this is extremely biased, right? But I do think what design methodology teaches us about empathy, about understanding the implications and impact of the work we do, whether it is design or whether you're, I don't know, making shoes or harvesting wheat for that matter. I think design methodology is really good at kind of creating this understanding of the world around you. And I think investing in education in terms of that, and also curiosity. I think that is one of the most powerful things with design methodology as well, is asking the right questions. And I think as humanity kind of finds itself at this inflection point, very much kind of friction all around. I think being able to take a step back and really understand what, quote unquote, the other side is actually trying to say, I think it's just becoming more and more important to be curious, to listen, and to find kind of a good path forward together.
Excellent. Niklas, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you sharing those insights. Very valuable, and certainly I've learned quite a few things myself. And I wish you all the best, and blessings to you and your team. And thank you for making a difference and being a designer, a leader who cares.
Thank you very much, Marian. It's been a pleasure.